Ukrainian military leaders are determined to hang on to the embattled town of Bakhmut, according to a statement by President Zelensky's office. The news comes amid growing signs of a rift between the Russian Wagner mercenary group and the Kremlin. Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin says his representative has been denied access to Russia's military headquarters in Ukraine. This comes shortly after Prigozhin released a message warning that his troops were running out of ammunition in Bakhmut, despite Moscow promising new supplies last month. Prigozhin said the lack of ammunition risked the collapse of Russia's front lines near the city. For more, we can talk now to Stephen Blank. He's a senior fellow with the Foreign Policy Research Institute and has published extensively on Russia. Mr. Blank, welcome to DW. Now, Yevgeny Prigozhin has been described as one of Putin's closest and most brutal allies. How much should we make of what looks like a growing rift between him and Russia's military command?
Well, I think it's significant because if the Prigozhin, who is the founder and leader of the private military group Wagner, and the military command fall out, that kind of dissension spreads throughout the ranks and has a corrosive effect on the military. It also has a corrosive effect on Russian politics at the higher levels of command. So I think it's a significant development.
Not many people speak out against Russian leadership the way Prigozhin does. He's doing it now. He's done it before. Just how powerful has he become through his group's involvement in the war?
I don't think anybody's quite sure how powerful he is, but he obviously feels he can get away with doing this. As you pointed out, it's not at all common that anybody criticizes the Russian government or the military publicly and gets away with it, as he has up till now. But he obviously feels he has enough political space or power or affinity with Putin, however you describe it, to do so. But the longer this goes on, the longer, sooner or later, Putin will have to slap him down. As it is, the fact that he's complaining that his people aren't getting ammunition indicates that the government is not inclined to listen to him.
Prigozhin says that without his mercenaries, the front line would crumble. Is he threatening Putin with withdrawal indirectly there?
I think he is, but it's not only withdrawal. After all, if you're not getting ammunition, you can't fight. So they'll all be killed or something. So if he was to pull his troops out, I don't think the whole military would fall, but there would be certainly significant damage to the Russian military position.
How concerned do you think Putin should be about these divisions? The optics here are certainly anything but good.
Well, the optics to us are one thing. The optics to Putin are another. And people make the mistake of judging Russian political developments through an American or West European prism, which is not at all a well-founded way to do things. Putin is using this for his own purposes, to be the ultimate arbitrator between them. But at some point, if you have a force of thousands of people where the morale is falling apart, or where they're actually threatening to withdraw, and they're claiming they're not getting ammunition, then at some point somebody's going to have to do something, either to stop Prigozhin or to give him something of what he wants.
Stephen Blank of the Foreign Policy Research Institute, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we can now speak to Marina Moran, a defense analyst at King's College London. Tonight, she joins us from Alicante in Spain. Marina, good to see you again. The Russians claim they have encircled Bakhmut. Ukrainian officials say that's just propaganda. So how close is Russia really to capturing Bakhmut?
Well, thank you for having me again. It's quite a difficult situation now for the Ukrainian forces. And indeed, we're seeing conflicting reports from both sides. But from the Ukrainian side, there were some interviews with those who have been around Bakhmut, and they did report that the situation for the Ukrainian armed forces is very dire. So I think that the Russians are having an upper hand right now. And of course, this is all due to what Wagner is doing. And precisely what he's doing is throwing a lot of manpower, because the Ukrainian armed forces are being outnumbered and they're struggling right now. So we are seeing now Wagner kind of trying to close this cauldron around Bakhmut, and we're also seeing attempts from the Ukrainian side to hold on to Bakhmut, to perhaps send some more reinforcements, or at least there is a discussion between General Zaluzhny and Lieutenant General Syrsky about what to do about Bakhmut. President Zelensky obviously doesn't want to give up Bakhmut, so it's quite a difficult situation, and we shall see what the Ukrainian political leadership will do about this, whether it will realize in how far it can push its military instrument, and whether it's worth all the human cost.
You said it there, President Zelensky wants to send more troops to defend Bakhmut, but given the highly questionable strategic importance of Bakhmut and the sheer brutality of the war there, would that be the right decision, in your opinion?
Well, it depends, because the problem is that Bakhmut is significant, and it has become significant for both sides, especially as President Zelensky has been stressing for months that the Ukrainian troops wouldn't give up Bakhmut. Now, losing Bakhmut would be very self-defeating right now, both from the political and from the strategic perspective, especially because in military strategic terms, Bakhmut is next to key roads, which would sever the logistics of the Ukrainian armed forces. The other thing is sending in more troops. Given the situation, the question is whether anything can be saved, or will this drag on and cost more human lives, especially when we're talking about the Ukrainian armed forces. And the second question is, where are those reinforcements coming from? Meaning that they will be redeployed from another location which they might be defending at present. So there is a chance that the Russians might use this opportunity to conduct battle reconnaissance and to strike where the defenses are weakest of the Ukrainian forces along the front line.
Let's talk about the Russian side of the war, because the head of the Wagner group says he's being starved of ammunition. What's behind that?
It is interesting that Yevgeny Prigozhin is coming again with this statement, because we have seen that a couple of weeks ago he was complaining about the Russian generals giving out medals to those who didn't deserve them, and at the same time his fighters were lacking proper artillery support and proper air support, and they didn't have enough ammunition. And then kind of several days later, he claimed that the problem had been resolved, that the MOD heard his requests and retracted his statement. And I'm wondering, who is his audience? Who is he trying to appeal to? Because there is an evident rift between the Ministry of Defense and now the commander of the Ukrainian contingent, General Gerasimov, and Yevgeny Prigozhin. So I think that Yevgeny Prigozhin is trying to kind of position himself as this indispensable actor in this conflict, because these messages that he's posting, he could have gone through the back channels and sorted it out with the MOD, but he apparently wants this attention. He wants the attention from all sides, from the MOD and obviously from the Russian kind of population, to reinforce his position and to gain some political traction and a certain voice in how the special military operation, in quotation marks, should be going. And I think for the Russian MOD, I don't think that they are actually withholding any ammunition. There is a general ammunition shortage, and both sides are suffering from the shortage of especially 120 millimeter artillery shells. So I think it is a bit of an overstatement. Well, we have to keep in mind that indeed there is a rift, and Wagner is kind of trying to reinforce his position, probably aiming for Minister of Defense himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody in Putin's camp seems to be speaking up as openly against Russia's strategy as Prigozhin has been doing and is doing again now. If he really were to turn his back on the Russian president, what could that mean for the war?
Well, that is correct. Actually, Prigozhin is not the only one who is speaking against the strategy. Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechen leader, is supporting Yevgeny Prigozhin. There are some other military academics who have been voicing the same criticisms that we're hearing from Prigozhin, but I think he's the kind of the toughest one to go out and to openly criticize Putin, or rather the MOD and Putin's strategy. And I think his close ties with Putin allow him for that, to basically to push and try to enact some changes. And I think without Wagner, Russia would have had to look for another tool to fill that gap, because Wagner has been used in Syria, Wagner has been used in Ukraine since 2014. It's a very specific tool designed to solve very specific problems on the battlefield, those dirty problems. And the benefit of Wagner is that they have some sort of kind of a mission command doctrine where they have much more flexibility on the battlefield as compared to the rest of the Russian forces. So the point being, we don't really know if Wagner would be actually suitable to solve other tasks on the battlefield apart from doing what they're doing right now, the kind of the tasks, manpower intensive attacks, where he can basically risk losing men. I think that the Russians would be missing out, but I don't think that their entire kind of operation would collapse if Wagner wasn't on the battlefield.
Military analyst Marina Moran joining us from Alicante. Always great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.